Fellas, week 10 is here. Week 10's really here. 4 games out from the playoffs. Everyone except Stern is still alive. Sorry, Stern. You could technically get in if you win out, but might be difficult with your point differential as well. Great matchups this week. Great matchups last week. Actually, pretty low scoring across the league, but it's still fun. Some close ones. Some trades went down. Me and Char's pretty really irrelevant, and then obviously Log and Noto was another big one. We'll get into it. We always do. But first, let's hear from our loser of the week, Stern, for the 5th week in a row. What do you have to say?
My team had the lowest points again this week. Got CMC back. I thought Nico Collins was going to be back. Then he was not back. And I thought this week maybe was the week I would not have the lowest amount of points, but nope. Just nope. I don't really know what to say. Bye.
Yeah, it's been a rough year for Stern. Lowest points again. Final score 95.4, 107. Log finally gets a win. He lost as the lowest scorer by zero point 0.1 points to Char, who got over the hump with Jameer's final carry, which was pretty crazy. I don't know if you were watching it, but he had it, and then he had a 7-yard loss, and then he got it again, like on the very last play. It was actually pretty crazy. But yes, Char barely edges him out, still loses his matchup. We'll get into it. But yeah, fun stuff. Fun stuff for everyone except Stern, honestly. Our winner of the week, for the second time, Noto. And you actually sent me 2 videos, because you sent me one earlier today. You sent me another one after the trade. So let's hear from the winner of the week.
What's going on, everybody? I am back here as your winner of the week. I forgot to record the video last night, so this is me before I walk into work. So let's go ahead and get into it. So 160 points against Sky. Yeah, Sky, that was tough. Ja'Marr Chase with 55 on Thursday night. Tough to come back from that. It would have been a lot closer if he didn't get that. I will say that. So shout out Jack again for tossing me over Ja'Marr Chase and making my team good again. So, 8.9 from Baker, 29 from Bijan, 15 from James Cook, 14 from Darnell Mooney. My team had a pretty good week besides Ja'Marr Chase, and even if he gets 20, which is usual for him, I end up winning this game. Sky, I'm looking at your bench. I guess you could have started, and not even. Jalen Hurts got more than Brock Purdy. But yeah, as my second winner of the week video, this one feels pretty good. I knew I'd be back here, but now felt bad beating up on Sky. I like you, Sky, but felt a lot better beating up on Jared. So now I'll look ahead to just beating Jared in the final, because everybody else's team is just terrible except for mine. So, all right, I got to walk into work, but thank you all, and I will see you again on these videos very soon, I'm sure.
So, boys, quick little update. I know most of you saw my trade with Logan. I think it's a pretty fair trade. I think it definitely makes my team better, but he needs kind of that running back for this week. Especially, I need Jared to take as many losses as possible. Char seems to be pretty heated about it, so I don't know, Char. I could have traded with you, but you weren't texting me like Logan was. So, yeah, I think this trade solidified my win of the league, because A.J. Brown's going to go nuclear the next couple weeks. And so, yeah, thank you, everybody, for giving me all that money. Really appreciate it.
Yes. Noto thinks he'll be seeing me in the championship. His team's looking better than ever with the trades that he made, which I guess we can kind of get into now. Me and Char did a pretty meaningless trade. I gave up Ricky Pearsall, and he gave me Hunter Henry. I needed a tight end for this week, and Ricky P was not seeing the field for me. And then, like 30 minutes later, a huge trade comes in, which was Log giving up A.J. Brown and A-Kane and getting back Bijan, Juwan, and Chubb. Some people are saying that Noto ripped off another member of the group. I get why Log did it. I think he undervalued A.J. Brown a lot, but I see from his perspective he needed some running backs for this week, and he's high on Juwan Jennings. Obviously, Bijan's the best player in that trade, so, you take what you can get. But, yes, I think those two teams have different goals. I think Log's trying to stay alive in the playoff hunt, and Noto's looking for a championship this year. We'll see, You all know me. I'm a big believer that vetoes are not a thing unless it's collusion. There are plenty of times where we think we know better, and then it ends up being that the trade benefits no one. I had in my other league, someone traded Josh Allen for Austin Eckler straight up, and everyone wanted to kill me because I wouldn't veto it. And then they both ended up losing matchups because of the trade, and I think both of them missed the playoffs. So you never know how it goes. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, those are the big ones. And then Noto and Jack traded back Xavier Legette and Jalen Tolbert, and then Noto ended up dropping Xavier. So fun stuff, funny stuff all around. But let's get into the matchups from last week, shall we? Sammy, I know you care about this. I went 2-3 on games last week. I got the Noto Sky game right and the Me Sammy game right. The other games I got wrong. I'm 27-23 on the season, so we're batting above 500. Omar's still my worst. I'm 3-7 on Omar games, and I'm 7-3 on my games and Logs games. Everyone else, you fall somewhere in the middle. Yeah. First matchup, Noto and Sky. So Sky was the fourth highest scorer this week with 109 points. It was a really weird week across the league. It was very low scoring, basically except for Jamar Chase. Like, that's kind of what happened. Jamar Chase had 55 on Thursday Night Football, and that was the game. Like, the game was over before Sky even had anyone. Noto leaving Juwan Jennings on the bench in favor of Tank Dell and Xavier Legette. He won't have to worry about that anymore because he traded him away. Traded away Chubb. So, Noto's team looks very different now than it did last week. Bijan and Jamar had 85 of his 160, so that's over half of his points. Sky, obviously he makes the trade with me for CD. He gets much-needed depth. Obviously, we made that trade before it was announced that Trevor Lawrence might miss a bunch of time. So that's a bummer because he was really, really good when T-Law was playing. And then Swift just did not have a positive game script at all. New England, my Patriots kind of beat him up pretty bad, which was nice to see for me. If I'm Sky, I'm looking at a QB needy team, and I'm trying to ship either Jalen or Purdy because his two best players are his quarterback 1 and his quarterback 2. And everyone else just kind of falls off a cliff. But, I mean, that's what happens when your whole team gets hurt. So, tough sledding for Sky. He's somehow 6-4. Omar touched on this, but he is third lowest in points for and most points against. And he's somehow 6-3. It doesn't make any sense. Or he's somehow 6-4. It doesn't make any sense. He's in 5th place, and he has a 2-game advantage on 6th. So I guess I'll get into standings after we do the recap for each thing, because I do want to touch on that. But yeah, Noto, big win for him, 6-4 after starting 0-3, up to 3rd place. Sky drops game, 6-4, also in 5th place. Okay, Jack and Omar. So Omar, after scoring 190 points on me last week, comes crashing back down to earth, 107 points. Jack gets the win, 119 to 107. Jack was led in scoring by Lamar with 32. Calvin Ridley had 25. Joe Mixon had 17. Laporta had 15. And then Wandale was 10. No one else was in double digits. Deontay is looking like a massive, massive disappointment on the Ravens. He's got 1 catch in 2 games. Laporta finally gets in the end zone, but now he's hurt. Devontae stinks. And then he had to play Braylon Allen this week as I have to play a running back play. Still got the win, even with, he had Madison on bye, and B-Rob didn't play. He should have B-Rob back this week. Omar. Kelsey scored 20 points. Eckler had 18. That was about it. Kirk only had 10. Derrick Henry had 14. Tony Pollard had 10. JJ with a massive disappointment against the Jaguars, though that's not really his fault. Sam Darnold played horribly. And then Zay Flowers only was 7. So disappointing. And then he had Cortland Sutton and Rashad Bateman on the bench. So he could have won this one if he played the right guys. I don't know why he played a double flex with Gesicki and Cortland Sutton. If he plays Cortland Sutton over Gesicki, he wins this by like 0.2. So That'll keep him up at night. He keeps Jack around in the playoff pictures instead of having a game up on everyone, or on Jack, or instead of having a game up on Log and 2 games up on Jack. He's now right in the mix of all the 4 and 6 teams. So that's a costly decision from Omar's perspective. And then he was trying to tell everyone about Audric Estime. Didn't get him off the waivers this week, so that's a tough one. Yeah, both these teams are now 4 and 6. Omar's in 6, Jack's in 9th. Sean and Char. So these two teams we're both 6 and 3. Bad matchup. 106-95 was the final. Sean basically was just banking on the Dolphins, which ended up working out for him. He got the win, but it was very low scoring, like I said. His leading scorer was Puka with 18 on Monday night, and then the Bills' defense was 17. And then Terry and Alvin Kamara, both 16 and 15 respectively. No one else top 10. Tua with 8, Ramondre with 8, Jonnu with 7, or Tyreek Hill with 11, and then Gabe Davis, which was a crazy play, which I said in the group chat, only had 2 points. Again, doesn't matter because he got the win, but very, very low scoring performance. Char's team just does not look like a team that should be 6 and 4, if I'm speaking truthfully. Rachaad White may be here to save the day. He's kind of been on a heater. 29, 15, 12, 19 over the last 4 weeks ever since Log dropped him. Evan Ingram still got 10 points, but definitely takes a hit to his value with Mac Jones being the starter going forward. Devonta with 3. That's a huge bummer. And then Ladd McConkey with 7. So, I mean, DJ Moore's been a massive disappointment. Devonta's candidly been a little bit of a disappointment from a fantasy perspective. Jahmyr Gibbs is always going to have that solid floor, but getting that huge ceiling is limited with Dave Montgomery back there. For Char to be competitive, he really needs Josh Allen to be scoring 25-30 every week. The rest of his team just they don't have the juice. Honestly, Anthony Richardson coming back is massive for Jonathan Taylor because teams have to worry about Anthony Richardson's mobility, which they definitely didn't have to worry about with Flacco. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think Char's not feeling too great about his team, but he's still 6 and 4. He's still firmly in the playoff picture right now. There's a 2-game gap on the 6 and below place, so he's sitting at 6 and 4. Sean, one of 2 7 and 3 teams, second place. So Stern and Log finally gets a win. He stops his 4-game skid. 107-95. Again, very low scoring, very low scores across the league this week. Candidly, if Ben would have just picked up like Demarcus Robinson or anyone, or like candidly managed his roster properly by having the people who play in later games in his flex, he doesn't get loser of the week for sure. And then he only lost by 12. Like, he has a chance to win. But he played Justice Hill on Thursday night in his flex, which just doesn't make any sense. But he also played Caleb Williams, who's looked atrocious, over Mahomes. A lot of question marks surrounding Stern's roster management this year. He was led in scoring by Chuba, who has been the RB6 on the season. He's been unbelievable. And Aaron Jones with 12. Mark Andrews had a good game. CMC with 16 and Khalil Shakir with 11. I mean, he was the lowest scorer by 0.1. He still put up 95, which is better than what he's had weeks previously. Log finally gets in the win column. He big-brained himself by playing Stafford over Kyler after Kyler's 4-point game the previous week. 28 points by Kyler on the bench. It didn't matter. He still got the win. Falcons defense with -1. That's tough to see as well. And then Jalen Waddle, I think, had that one catch at the beginning for the big game and then just didn't touch the ball for the rest of it. But Bucky's looks good. TJ Hawkinson, you're happy to get him. Obviously, A.J. Brown's no longer on the team, neither is A-Kane. But we'll talk about that more later. Law gets a much needed win here to stay relevant in the playoff picture. Stern, I mean, he has to win out to have a shot to get in. So his season's basically over with this loss. Me and Sammy, I was the second highest scorer, but I was still 24 points off from Noto. Sammy 107, so he was right in the middle. We had a 107, a 109, another 107, a 106, and then another 107. So there were 3 teams that scored 107 and some change, which is pretty crazy. And also kind of crazy that none of them were playing each other, which would have made this week way more fun. For my end, it was a 29-point win. I played Joe Burrow over Jaden Daniels, which ended up being the right call. 33 points versus 8. Saquon could not get it going. He got tackled on the 1. Jalen got the tush push. So he underperformed. Kyron didn't. I don't think Kyron got in the end zone this week, which was a bummer. Drake London played well. CD did not do well, but also Jerry Jones blinded him with the sun, which he had a wide open touchdown. And then Cade Otton was a little disappointing. 8 points. He's been awesome off the waivers with everyone else being hurt. Amon-Ra, Cooper Kupp, and the Vikings defense. Great games. 18, 15, and 15 respectively. Sammy with 107. Chase Brown on the bench. That's tough. He had 22. J.K. Dobbins only with 8. Pickens had a great game with 20. No one else top 20 for Sammy. Rams defense had 9. I think the Texans defense ended up having more, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Just a lot of very solid, fine performances, but not anything that's going to get you a win. Sam Darnold was the letdown for him. Only 6 points going against the Jaguars defense. He looked horrible and officially put the Vikings in fraud watch territory. But yeah, I get a win after I was on a 2-game skid. I get the win. I remain in first place, tied with Sean, and Sean and I play each other this week. So, pretty big matchup. Sammy, unfortunately, takes another L. He's sitting at 4-6, 7th right now, just outside the playoff picture. But, man, it's going to come down to the wire. It's going to be exciting. And that is the recap for the week. I'm going to stop recording real quick so I can resume. I don't want to lose this data because I did it for my other league, and I lost everything and had to re-record, and it was a whole thing. So, okay. Let's do some standings. Let's do standings. So, there's 2 halves of the league right now. The half that's in and the half that's fighting. So, I'll say me and Sean are in. We're 7-3. Even if we lose out, we finish at 7-7. 7-7 is going to get you in the playoffs. You go 500, you get in. Noto, Char, and Sky are basically in. But if they lose out, they could potentially be out. I'm candidly not really worried about that with Noto. I think he's in. Noto's in. Char and Sky I have concern about. Their teams have not been on it. I could see them potentially losing out. It's going to be close. So that's the top half. Bottom half, we have 4 teams at 4-6, which is awesome. Just awesome. Omar, Sammy, Log, Jack, and then Stern is also here, making the videos each week, which we appreciate, man. So a lot of these teams play each other this week too, so the playoff picture is really going to start to take shape, which is awesome. I'm very excited. In case you can't tell, I know Omar's excited too. He even said something about it, which I love. I love everyone's getting active in the chat. But let's look at some of these matchups. First off is Jack and Sammy. I just texted Jack. I said, "Yo, have you set your lineup?" No, of course he hasn't set his lineup because he's a 32-point underdog right now, which that's a lot of points. He shouldn't be a 32-point underdog. And I don't know if you guys know this, but if you go to scoreboard on the desktop, you can go to the box score and it'll show points scored per week from each of these teams. And these two are just like a roller coaster, flipping back and forth. There hasn't been 2 weeks where one team has scored more than the other since week 4. These teams have flip-flopped every week since then, which is just insane. No one on bye this week for either of these teams, which is crazy because I feel like this is a pretty big bye week. Jack has not set his lineup, like I said. He's still got Brian Robinson, who is going to play tomorrow. He's playing tomorrow, Jack. The game is tomorrow in his IR slot. He does get Anthony Richardson back from the bench, but I don't think he's going to play him over Lamar. I'm assuming he's going to plug Romeo Dubes in. Sam Laporta didn't practice today, so he's going to need to find a tight end off waivers. So a lot of management for Jack to do here. He's definitely a step behind. Sammy is obviously on his stuff because he's Sammy. He's always on it. He does have DK on the bench right now, which is interesting. I like DK a lot this year. I know that maybe he hasn't been the best a couple games, but very hit or miss. But yeah. So Sammy projected for 133, Jack projected for 100. He's going with Herbert this week because Darnold looked really bad last week. So he got Herbert off the waivers. Everyone's projected for basically 15 to 16 points for Sammy's team. Packers defense against Chicago, that's a great play. Colts defense is not good. I don't know why Jack's rostering the Colts defense. Must be an Indiana thing. I'm not going to pretend I understand it. Both these teams are 4-6. It's basically a loser leaves town game. There's a huge difference. We're 4 weeks in between 4-7 and 5-6. So this is a must win for both of these teams. And then we also have a must win with Omar and Log. I think Sammy's going to take this one. I think it's not going to be a 30-point blowout. I think it'll probably be closer to like 5-10. But candidly, I don't know if Jack's going to set his lineup. And I texted him and asked him about it. But you can never trust him. You never trust him. So it'll be Sammy. Sammy over Jack. I'm writing it down in my little spreadsheet. Okay. Next matchup. Char and Sky. We are also, I think, as I've mentioned, in the part of the season where most of these teams have played each other before. Jack and Sammy have not. This is their first time meeting. Char and Sky have played each other before. They played in week 2. Sky won by a score of 134-106. I want to make sure that everything loaded. Okay. Char's a 13-point favorite, but this is a very low projected game. 128-115. Sky's hurting. I think it's clear to everyone that Sky's hurting a lot. And it doesn't help that ETN was his second pick. Najee didn't practice today. I'm assuming he's going to end up playing because it's Ravens week. But he does have Jaylen Warren, who gets a significant bump if Najee does not play. Josh Downs kind of takes a hit with Anthony Richardson coming back. Brian Thomas Jr., that's a bummer. His performance last week, he only had 3 targets, and his 2 catches came on like the last drive. D-Hop. Sky basically needs D-Hop to be relevant. And Jalen obviously is his best player. So it's tough. It's tough to see a team that would look so good at the beginning of the year have a roster that looks like this with 4 weeks to go. Not Jack. Got the Evan Ingram thing mixed up. Char. I mean, I touched on this already. Whole lot of mid. DJ Moore finds his way to the bench after not scoring. He has not scored at least 10 points literally since week 5. That's not an exaggeration. We are in week 11. He hasn't scored more than 10 points in week 5, since week 5. So he finally finds his way to the bench. Obviously, he's got Josh Allen leading the charge. He gets like one more week out of Kareem Hunt before Isaiah Pacheco comes back, who was just, I think, activated off IR but is not playing this week. He's going with Ladd McConkey, Devonta on Thursday night, and then JT gets a huge bump, like I said, with Richardson coming back. So I think this is probably going to be the lowest scoring matchup. I will be taking Char over Sky, which I don't think should surprise anyone, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, Noto and Stern. I really don't feel like I need to go too much into this matchup. Noto's been on a heater. He's won, 6 of his last 7. Stern's been the loser of the week for 5 weeks in a row, and he has Chuba on bye. He should get T. Higgins back, but I mean he needs to find a running back to play, and I just feel like he's at the point of the season where he's kind of checked out. I know I have to text him a bunch of times to make the video, but I feel like he's pretty checked out mentally. In their previous matchup, which was week 3, which was before Jack made Noto's team good, Stern actually did win this matchup, 124-113. So it was one of his 2 wins. That was after I did the trade with him, and the trade that was the Kyron for Chuba and Aaron Jones, and because of that trade that he won. So I mean, the thing is, candidly, when Ben gets his full team back, it's actually not horrible. It's much better than Sky's. Mahomes, Chuba, Aaron Jones, Nico Collins, CMC, T. Higgins, Mark Andrews. That's not horrible. So he could play spoiler to some teams going into the back half of the season. He could ruin some people's days. So I'm hoping that Stern does that. You hope he sets his lineup, but we don't have a punishment as of right now for not having one. So I'm going to pencil in Noto. I'm probably going to text Stern and remind him, please set your lineup, but that's where we're at. Okay, Omar and Log. Great matchup. Love this matchup. These 2 teams did play already, where Omar won in week 3, 132-128. So that was a big matchup. When you're looking at these teams, these new teams, because Logan has a brand new team going into this week, has a little check mark for the position comparison. Omar has every single position checked except for his RB2, because technically Bijan is in his RB2. It looks like he's finally off the double tight end wave, so that's good. I'm proud of him for that. Texans defense is a great play against Dallas this week. He's got Courtland Sutton in. who has actually been very good outside of that zero burger. Past 3 weeks, 17, 23, 19. So Bo Nix seems to like him. We're starting Russell Wilson, which is hilarious, but makes sense. He's actually been pretty decent. He's averaging 18 points, 24, 13, 18. Derrick Henry, RB1 right now. Tony Pollard, I think he was banged up, but he looks fine. JJ, got to get back to JJ form. Zay Flowers, got to have a good Zay Flowers game. And then Kelsey's been the number one guy in Kansas City ever since Rasheed got hurt. Past 3 weeks, he's had 25, 22, and 20. So he's looking like a good pick right now for Omar. Log side of the matchup, assuming he hasn't accepted the trade that I've sent him, which I don't think he has, his lineup looks as following. Goff, Nick Chubb, Bijan, Garrett Wilson, Juwan Jennings, Brock Bowers, TJ Hockenson, Cedric Tillman. So there's like a lot of guys that are like good waiver wire pickups, I want to say. Like Hawk was on the waivers in a lot of leagues. Cedric Tillman was obviously on the waivers in a lot of leagues. Juwan Jennings was a waiver pickup. Chubb, you can argue, was on the waivers in a bunch of leagues because of his injury. And then Goff is obviously a waiver wire guy. So you basically have Brock Bowers, Bijan, and Garrett Wilson as like his guys that are people that you would have drafted with higher picks. Bucky is on bye, which is a bummer for him because he's been playing very well. And then he did get Audric Estime off the waivers, but he's not going to play him because he got Chubb. I actually don't hate Log's team as much as he's only projected for 116. That's very low. I think Juwan Jennings beats his 11-point projection. I think Brock Bowers probably beats his 11-point projection. I think Cedric Tillman beats his 11-point projection. I think he is going to outperform his projection. I think Omar's team looks better on paper right now. But I don't think Log is going to be as bad as Char may think he's going to be. With all of that being said, I think it would be very funny if Log won, so I'm going to write that down. So I am going to pick Log over Omar this week, which I'm sure will make him sigh very deeply, and Log will be like, hee hee, yeah, and he'll be all pumped up that I picked him for once. I think I could see it happening. Yeah, because Brian Robinson's back, so Eckler's not relevant anymore, even though he's not starting anyway. And starting Jacoby Myers, who is actually had 18 points last week. So what can I say? I mean, he hung 190 on me, so obviously I can't be too mean to him. But yeah, okay. Me and Sean's the final matchup. This is, I guess you would say, is like the marquee matchup because we're both 7-3. But obviously the 4 and 6 matchups have way more at stake, so I like those matchups more. We have played each other before. Sean beat me in week 2 with a score of 127 to 119 or 1-1-1-1. That was when Kamara had like 40 points, and I got pooped on. So Sean's team's hurting a little bit from injuries. Obviously, Tyreek has not looked good. He's actually on his bench, which is crazy. Diggs is done for the year. He does have Puka back, who's looked very good. Alvin Kamara has obviously been very good. Jordan Love going against the Bears is probably very good. Josh Jacobs going against the Bears. So he's going to Njoku over Kraft, which makes sense. Njoku's been very good too. He gets Kenneth Walker coming off bye. So a lot of good plays here that I'm seeing. On my side, I keep flip-flopping back and forth between Burrow and Jaden Daniels. I got to make that decision before tomorrow. Cade's on bye this week, which sucks. I had to trade for a tight end, so I got Hunter Henry, who's been a good target for Drake May, but he was questionable. He was limited to practice today. So we'll see. I'm hoping my guys can get it done. It's a revenge game. We already lost to Sean once. We are projected for the most points in the league, with Sean being projected for like top 5, I want to say, 128.4. We're manifesting a win for me, but Sean always somehow gets it done against me. So it's going to be close. It'll be a tough one. It'll be fun, though. Winners in sole possession of first place. So that's pretty big, especially going into the last 3 weeks. So we'll see what happens. But other than that, hit the waivers, make some trades, keep the chat active, and stay healthy. Love you guys.